Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for today. Before we get too far into it, I want to give a shout out to our classrooms joining us today. Remember, we have our chat sidebar. We want to see lots of questions coming in today to have those answered. And of course, we'll have our Kahoot quiz later, and we want everybody to take part in that for a chance at one of the gift cards. So, today's event, we are going to have some time connecting with the Oosterschelde. So if you've been following along, you know they've crossed the Atlantic. They've made it to the mainland coast of Brazil and spent time in Salvador, where we connected last week. And now they are getting really close to Rio de Janeiro. And then we have an incredible series of events starting next week that are going to run throughout the week. We'll be doing live stuff in the field. We have a big Darwin Day event on the 12th. We'll have amazing speakers from around the world, including Sylvia Earle and Jane Goodall and many more. And so I thought before we get too deep into it, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And let's take a little look here at where the ship is. So let me make sure I pick the right tab. There we go. So you should be able to see this now on the website, DARWIN200.com. We have this great map that we've been using. And you're able to follow along pretty much in real time. So you can see, if I zoom in a little, where we left Plymouth way back in August, feels like a lifetime ago now, made our way through here along the coast of Spain. We spent time in Tenerife, then Cape Verde, before we did our crossing of the Atlantic, and then Fernando de Noronha here in Brazil. And then you can see here that the ship is making its way towards Rio and probably will arrive maybe as early as this evening. And then what's really great about this map is in real time, we can pull in pictures and video clips. So you can follow along with what everybody on board is experiencing. So if I pick this one here and just move it up a little, you can see this great video of a pod of humpback whales here between Salvador and Rio de Janeiro. So the camera crew are doing absolutely amazing work getting those drones up into the air and capturing some of this absolutely incredible footage as the humpback whales make their way along the coast. You can also find more footage like this we post on the DARWIN200 YouTube channel. So let's just take a second here and take this in. Absolutely incredible to see this pod of humpback whales swimming along the coast. So DARWIN200.com, you can keep track of the map and see all of this great content as it comes out more or less in real time. Okay, let's come back from that screen share and let's keep the event moving along. So I did mention the Oosterschelde, and the last couple of weeks we've been able to connect with Josh Clark on board the ship, and he is one of the aforementioned camera crew. So let's bring him in here. Josh, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. So last time we talked, you were in Salvador. Remind us which project you were working on.
So I was part of one of two groups that were working on the Guyana dolphins over the other side of the bay from Salvador. So we spent 3 days on a sailing ship cruising through the rivers of the Atlantic rainforest, filming dolphins. It was a really nice, really good experience.
Yeah, and were you guys pretty successful? Did you find some groups, some pods?
Oh, we were very successful. Yeah, there was a feeling that maybe we might not see any because these are quite shy species of dolphin. They don't come to the boat or anything like that. And we were sure we were going to see maybe 4 or 5 dolphins, but we lost count of how many dolphins we saw.
Wow.
We had really, really good experience with them.
Oh, that's great. Very cool. So the ship has left Salvador. How's the cruise so far been along the coast? What do you guys been seeing?
Overall, it's been a really, really nice sail. The last couple of days have been a little bit bumpy because we've had the sails down and we've been rolling on the motor. But other than that, it's been a really, really nice, smooth sail. And we've seen loads of wildlife, lots of birds. We've started to see our first albatross that you start to encounter as you head further south. And the amount of whales we've been seeing is absolutely incredible. On the trip down from Noronha to Salvador, we got 1 pod of whales on the last day, or a couple of pods of whales on the last day, whereas we've had whales every single day pretty much, to the point where you start to not even register the fact that the whales are there because it's just another whale.
Wow, that's amazing. And is it all humpbacks? Has there been any other species sighted?
All humpbacks, yeah, all humpbacks. So they're migrating south at the moment to go and spend what would be the UK winter, but their summer in Antarctica, feeding up. So we're just catching the last of the stragglers as they move south.
Yeah. All right. And so when you arrive in Rio, you're going to be jumping on a new project with one of the Darwin leaders. We have 5 incredible projects on the go. We'll be out in the protected islands, looking at the coral and the sea turtles. We'll be in the forest with the Golden Lion Tamarin Association. We'll be with the dolphins again out in September Bay. And then which project am I missing here? We're going to meet you with the howler monkeys up in the mountains. So or in the national park, kind of the urban setting. So that'll be on the 8th. Can you tell us a little bit about that project? What do you know about that one so far?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting project. So there, as of recently, there used to be a population of howler monkeys in the national park, and then over a few years, about 200 years ago, they went locally extinct in that area. And a few years ago, a reintroduction started. So there's already been, I think, 1 or 2 groups reintroduced, and then we're going to be following the next group of howler monkeys that are going to get reintroduced into the rainforest, into the national park. So that's really nice. That'd be really nice to see.
Yeah, amazing. I not too long ago was in the Osa Conservation, so Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica, and every morning at 5 o'clock, you'd be awoken by the screams of the howler monkeys. It's quite kind of otherworldly. So I think that'll be pretty cool in the next few years in Rio. That sound could be echoing across the city coming from the hills. That'll be a real victory.
Yeah.
All right. And the project I left out was the association. There's 2 parts. There's the Golden Lion Tamarins, but then also the reforestation of the Atlantic rainforest, which was so an important place for Darwin, where he visited. Charles Darwin's great-great-granddaughter Sarah will be with us for the week, so we'll take her up into the Atlantic rainforest. So it's going to be a real fun week. I can't wait. Josh, before we take a couple questions, do you have a second? Let's go out on the deck and let's see how things are looking today.
Yeah, sure. We'll see how it goes. The Wi-Fi can be a bit shaky up there, but we'll do our best. Let me just switch over to my phone so I can take you on the move.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
If we lose you, we'll just come back down if everything freezes up. All right, so I'm going to switch screens here. I'm going to put Josh in on the phone. There we go. There he is. And let's see how the internet cooperates. Oh, it looks nice and sunny today.
Yeah. We've had a couple of rainy days, but it's nice that the sun's finally come back out. So here we are up on deck, and then you can just see the first signs of land that we got in the morning, just in the background there, the mountains of Brazil. But like I said, there's been very little wind the last few days, so we don't have any sails up at the moment. We're just cruising along on the motors. But yeah, nice blue water. There's some seabirds out there flying around, and I'm sure if we had any keen eyes out, we'd probably see some whales jumping around as well.
All right, beautiful. I can't wait to see that ocean. Yeah, pretty lucky to be out there and enjoying a little warmth and arriving in Rio tonight. Very cool.
Yes, yeah.
All right, Josh, let's take a few questions. So if anyone's tuning in with the chat, you can use the chat and send us in some questions. We're going to start with one about the food. Josh, what's the food like on board the ship?
Oh, give me 1 second, just while I switch back over to
the computer. Yeah, good idea.
It's a bit better.
Perfect. You held out really nice for us, the signal. That's good.
There we go. Okay, so the food on board is fantastic. We've got a very experienced cook on board who's been cooking on ships for a long time, and we have different food every night. We've had Indian food, we've had Chinese food, we have pancakes in the morning and sandwiches for lunch, and yeah, really, really good food. We are certainly well fed.
All right, so the food has come a long way probably since Darwin's time.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another question here. I know that it hasn't been a lot of sailing with the wind, but have you been able to get up into the masts and help work the ship?
I haven't been up into the mast. We all get stuck in with working the ship, so we're all pulling ropes and helping set the sails as and when we need to. Plenty of people have had the opportunity to get up into the mast. The other 2 camera operators that are on board have been up in the mast, and it's a a good place to watch the whales from. So as soon as we see some whales up in the distance, we get someone up in the mast, and they're shouting at us while we're flying the drone, telling us in what direction they are and how far away they are. So it's a really good place up there.
Very cool. And then a question that tends to come in here, because every leg a new kind of group comes on board. So how have people coped? Anybody had trouble finding their sea legs on this leg?
I think we had a couple people feeling quite ropey towards the beginning, but after the first 2 days, everybody seemed to get over it pretty easily because, like I said, it's been quite smooth sailing. So overall, after the first 2 days, everybody seemed to be absolutely fine, as opposed to because we're sticking quite close to the coast on this leg.
Yeah.
Whereas when we sailed from Noronha, there was a lot of open ocean, so it was a lot bumpier. So the first 2 or 3 days was a bit harder.
All right. Well, Josh, it's you'll be hitting land soon. There'll be a lot of company coming your way for the week.
Yeah.
We look forward to catching up with you in the field this time. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good talking to you.
Yeah. All right, Josh. Thanks for tuning in.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Say hi to the other camera guys, and we'll see you soon.
Will do. Thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks, Josh. Okay, we are going to jump right into the next part of our event today. We always like to bring in special guests, and I'm really excited to have my friend Nicole Stott joining us today. She is a retired NASA astronaut, and she's also an amazing artist. So to talk a few of her accomplishments, she has flown to space on the space shuttle, spent time on the International Space Station, was the first person to do a watercolor in space. She's also an aquanaut, which I find really cool as a diver, living underwater and helping to train for some of those space missions. So let's bring Nicole in with us right now. Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Great. Thanks, Joe. How are you doing? That was great to hear Josh and see. I can't imagine being out there that way.
Yeah, they're lucky. The camera crew get to go on for a few legs. They meet amazing people. They see amazing things. And those humpback whale drone shots are just absolutely incredible. I never get tired of those.
Yeah. Reminds me, I mean, it does remind me of being in space, how cool it is to bring that perspective up a little bit as you're looking back towards Earth. And although I don't know if we have good enough zoom lenses yet to pick up humpback whales, but
yeah,
it's always fun to look from a different perspective.
Well, you really have had that, that incredible perspective of looking at our home in, one go and getting to see that tiny little, almost like an apple skin of an atmosphere. So it must just be an amazing thing to see and be able to take in. I imagine even up until now, since those missions, you probably still kind of are search for the words to describe it.
Absolutely. And it's why I'm really thankful to you for including me in events like this, where we get to just throw out little pieces of it and hopefully inspire people to think about it. Even with your feet on the planet, it's amazing how much you can appreciate when I'm thinking about the name of this whole series, the most exciting classroom, we absolutely, regardless of which perspective you're appreciating it from, this planet is absolutely the most exciting classroom. And so it makes me really happy that you're, sharing things this way, and, that Josh can come on board and all the people that'll be engaging with the classrooms here on Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I let you take over for a few minutes, Nicole, we have one event I'm really excited about next week. We're going to be out on the dive boat on the 9th. And so we'll be diving with the sea turtles around this beautiful little group of protected islands a couple miles off the coast. And what we're going to try to do, which is going to be really cool, is in between dives, we'll have an event from the boat, and we'll meet some of the researchers. We'll put the ROV in the water and see what we see. Then we're going to connect to the other side of the country the continent, to the Pacific. And we're going to connect with the Fabian Cousteau Ocean Learning Center in Nicaragua, and then hopefully release baby sea turtles from their hatchery. So it's really, this technology and what we can bring into classrooms is really exciting.
Yeah, it reminds us how interconnected we are, right? And the fact that we can be all over the planet through an event like that and experiencing it that way. It's really incredible. I hope people will walk away understanding how amazing all of this is. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Nicole, let's let you take over for a few minutes. We'll
All
take
right, Joe, let's see if I can
after that. Yeah,
make it work here.
I have no doubt we'll get it
Okay,
going.
here we go. I had my tutorial earlier. We're going to go entire screen, entire screen. We're going to hit share, and then I'm going to go there. How's that?
Looks good. Let's just hide that sidebar at the bottom too.
Yeah, oops. And then we'll go back to the presentation. There, how's that?
Perfect.
All right, cool. All right, so I am always very excited to be in these programs with Joe and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and now the Most Exciting Classroom. I wanted to start out though with just this is just a short little 2-minute video to give you some sense of my experience in space, and so it'll showcase little bits and pieces from my 2 missions in space where I spent over 104 days up there across the 2, flying on the space shuttle and the space station. And I just love being able to share it through video as well. So here we go. And I'll be quiet while it plays, if I can actually hit the button. There we go. All right.
Start. 2, 1.
Are you clear, Nicole? Okay, coming out. And try not to breath. I've got 2 handles down. I want to avoid that. Okay.
All right. Let's see if I can make it go to the next slide. There it is. Okay, so, I love sharing that because I think it's a little action in there. You get to see, how we're living and working up in that really extraordinary place, which is this International Space Station. And I love it too, as we're talking about this whole DARWIN200 exploration that's going on, where, kind of orbiting the planet, but in a little bit different way, and experiencing Earth from extraordinary vantage points. And that's what we're doing every day on board the International Space Station. And just like that Darwin expedition, where we were learning all about who and where we are on this planet, the same thing is going on the International Space Station, where everything we're doing is off the Earth for the Earth, which means everything we're doing in space is ultimately about improving life on Earth. And this is a football field size spaceship orbiting the Earth 16 times a day. best example of living off the grid you can find. Look at those ginormous solar panels. People from 15 different countries working peacefully and successfully together as one crew on this machine in space. And we build these machines, these spacecraft, so that we can mimic what Earth does for us naturally as best we can as our life support system, which is what our spaceship really is. So every day we get up and first thing we have to do is check how much CO2 is in our atmosphere, how much clean drinking water we have, the integrity of our thin metal hull, and absolutely the health and well-being of all our crewmates. And we have to do that so that we can survive in that place. And then once we do all that and make sure everything's okay, then we can thrive in that place doing the science that we're there for, building on these international partnerships and exploring off our Earth, but also bringing all of that benefit back to the Earth. And we build these spaceships, right, so that we, the warm, the warm, fleshy ones, can live in that place. And we work there as a crew. These are the guys I spent my 3 months with on my first mission. And I just want to say, I can imagine the folks on the ship are experiencing some of the same thing where, you're seeing the whales, you're experiencing the life around you, the environment in a way that you should enjoy it, right? You should be having fun. You should feel the joy of it. And we absolutely did that in space. Our crew had personality. And hopefully you can see that in this picture. But at the same time, I look into the eyes of every single one of these people. And this is what I think makes the best crew, is that while you're having fun and enjoying it and doing the work that you're there for, you also know that every one of the people that you're with will have your back when things don't go quite as planned, as they sometimes do. And so I was really, really happy to be in space with these people who I knew trusted that I would have their back, and I absolutely trusted that they would have mine. And all of that, the way we build and work on our space stations, the way we work as a crew, it's such a wonderful example for how we should be doing that same kind of thing down here on Spaceship Earth. And what I love about what I'm seeing happening with the DARWIN200 mission as well. Now, why do we even go to these different places, right? It's because we can look at things from a whole new perspective. Something about the way we're exploring there, whether we're on the ocean or traveling down those rivers or into the rainforest, or if we're in space where you have no gravity, we can look at things in a whole new way. And in space, we can look at things by taking gravity out of the equation. And the scientists love that because it helps us see things about a lot of stuff we thought we knew a lot about already and learn even more that makes it even better. And I can tell you the scientists love using us as their observers in space for that science. We are also observers as human beings. I mean, the story that Josh was telling about seeing the dolphins, maybe expecting to see a couple and then seeing so many. The little video that Joe shared of those whales off the coast and how exciting I'm sure it was for that crew and for the camera people to capture that, for all of us to be able to experience. That's what we want to do as human beings, no matter where we are. So when we're in space, we are the observers as well. It's a very human thing to want to do. We want to look out the window. We want to experience our planet in a way we haven't before. And from space, you get to actually look out the window and see, oh my gosh, we live on a planet. And I think there's no denying when you look at pictures like this, that we are on a planet. And, Joe mentioned it, like the skin of an apple, that veil thin blue line that protects us all. It's a beautiful reminder, a beautiful, fragile reminder of who and where we all are in space together. And, got to go to space, did this work in space. And then I think we all, no matter where we go and explore, I imagine the same thing is going to happen for the people that are on that ship cruising the ocean around the planet that way. Once they're back on solid ground, they're going to want to share that experience in a whole new way. They're going to want to find more purpose in it that allows them to continue to take action with what they've experienced. And the same thing happened for me in space. As an artist, I love doing art there, but I also brought that love of space and art together back here on Earth, where I'm working with a group called the Space for Art Foundation. We believe we are uniting a planetary community of children through the awe and wonder of space exploration and the healing power of art. And some of that artwork with the kids has gotten to travel to space. Some of it has traveled to places like Scotland for COP, 26 activities, where the art spacesuit got to represent as the ambassador for Spaceship Earth. But what I love about looking at these pictures, just like I know what's happening on the ocean right now, is that we are bringing together people from all over our planet together in a way that's very purposeful. And we had the opportunity to work with kids in over 190 countries. I think that same thing is happening on the DARWIN200. Very cool to see stuff like that happening. And talking about bringing it back to Earth, this is kind of a spacey view of the coastline of Brazil from space. You can see the line of the atmosphere there glowing kind of a greenish color in the night view. And those lights, those bright lights, are along the coast of Brazil, where I believe the ship is sailing, or I should say motoring, I suppose, because of the light winds at this point. Just kind of cool to look at it from another vantage point. And then in all of this, the reminder that comes to us from what we experience looking out the window of a spaceship, looking out the window or from the deck of a sailing ship, is that we live on a planet. We're all Earthlings. Only border that matters is that thin blue line of atmosphere, and that by behaving like crewmates and not passengers, we have the power to create a future for all life on Earth that's as beautiful as it looks from space. And so I'm going to end the slides there, Joe. I'm going to go down here. Let's go escape. I'm going to hit our little thing so I can stop sharing.
All right.
And then, am I back?
You're back. Hey,
All right, cool. I made it work.
Yeah, excellent work today.
It doesn't always happen so smoothly.
Oh no, that was beautiful. Thank you for including that photo of Brazil there at the end too. That was very cool. And thanks for that message as well. We are on our own kind of little spaceship here in a massive universe. We've got such amazing things here, and we lose sight of that sometimes. So it's always great to talk to someone who has that perspective and can see the world without country lines, and really see how limited the space that we do have here and how important it is to protect it.
Yeah, that's why I'm so happy about what you're doing too, Joe. I think it speaks to it beautifully, what Josh shared with us. I mean, it's very much a crew, not passengers mentality.
Absolutely. Well, if you're up for it, Nicole, I say
absolutely.
We play a quick round of Kahoot while classrooms get their questions ready.
Okay.
I am going to fire up this Kahoot here really quickly. Should hear the music playing shortly. There it goes. I'm going to share my screen. And so as you're joining the Kahoot, feel free to start putting some questions into the chat as well. So we have some of those. And I'm going to get my screen sharing too. So make sure I pick the right one here. This looks right. Okay, here we go. So we need to go to kahoot.it. So you will see kahoot.it is your option to come and join. Then it's going to ask you for a PIN number. So today's PIN is 2580378. If you have a one-to-one device at your desk, maybe a Chromebook or a tablet, you can join that way. Otherwise, your teacher could pop this up at the front of the room and you could shout out your answers to him or her. If you're at home and maybe you have your mobile device handy, you could scan the QR code and it will bring you right in and you'll get your auto-generated animal name. While we do wait for, here comes some classes now. While we wait for a few more to join, Nicole, let's grab a question or two from the chat.
Okay.
So the first one here is from a student here, and they would like to know, you spent probably just over 3 months in space. What does it feel like to come back to Earth?
There's several different feelings. One, of course, is how your body feels, right? You feel really, really heavy. As you can imagine, you've gone from floating and flying and no load on your body except for when you're exercising to this load of gravity again. Your head, you feel like you have to hold your head up and stand up straight, something you haven't had to think about. And a lot of people experience a little bit of disorientation, maybe like some of the folks that are on the ship, out at the rougher seas. I was fortunate not to feel that so much, but our bodies have to reacclimate. And it's kind of cool to see how quickly they can do that, though. Get those little hairs working again in your ears to help you balance and move. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question here, and I think this kind of fits with acclimatizing and new experiences. We have a student who wants to know, was there fear or nervousness on your first trip?
I think there's a sense of anxiousness is what I really remember feeling about the space flight itself, about launching and all of that. Anxious, it in fact, kind of in a good way. Like, what's this going to feel like? I can't wait to get to space. I can't wait to do this work. I wasn't so much afraid of that side of things, of the launch and all of that. I think we felt like as a crew, we could do as much as was going to be humanly possible in any situation. My fear really was for my family who was watching me. My 7-year-old son, my husband, my mom and sisters, my friends. It's a lot more difficult to be the people watching somebody strap into a rocket that they love than it is to be the person strapping into the rocket who's trained to do it. And so, I think that's there. It's just for me, I felt it in a different way.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep those questions coming. We'll take a few more after the Kahoot, but I think it's time we get this going. Remember that the first place person in the Kahoot, if you send me an email, and I'll share that email in a moment, we will send you a £50 Amazon voucher that you can use in your classroom. So very cool. We have a voucher on the line here. All right. So we're going to have 3-second count in, and then we will be going. So they're true and false multiple choice questions about, what we might have heard in the presentation today. Here we go. All right, multiple choice. Nicole lived in space for about, was it a month, 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months? So you have 20 seconds to pick your answer and lock it in. And then we will see who has the lead very early on in our Kahoot.
And whatever answer you give, Nicole will tell you that she wished it was longer.
I can imagine. All right. Good job, crew. Most students went with about 3 months. Very cool. And I know as well, Nicole, you were on the last flight of Discovery, the shuttle. So that must have been a special moment too. It
was. The spacecraft flew beautifully. As you can imagine, it was a little sad on the runway to know that it was going to a hangar instead of flying again. But Space Shuttle was an incredible machine, and I was very proud to be part of that final flight of Discovery.
All right. That puts the Wonder Duck in first place. Our next question, true and false. The International Space Station is about the size of a football field. Is that true or is that false? About the size of a football field. True or false? Got a few more seconds to get an answer locked in. All right.
Ooh, yeah.
That is absolutely true. Wonder Duck is holding down that top spot.
Wonder Duck.
So we'll see. We'll see if they can go tape to tape. So doing experiments in zero gravity isn't that interesting to scientists. True or false? And doing experiments in zero gravity is not that interesting to scientists.
I like your pictures, Joe.
Yeah, well, Kahoot, very nice for us, has a huge database that we can jump into and get some really nice shots. Okay, you're right. That is absolutely false. There's all kinds of things we can learn from doing experiments in zero gravity, not only for future space flight, but also some of that same technology can then be used here on Earth. So lots we can learn. I don't know. I don't think Wonder Duck's going to let this spot go, but it's really close. So anything can happen in our final question. Nicole made the first blank in space. Was it the first taco, the first watercolor painting, the first story, or the first sweater? I can almost picture you with knitting needles making a sweater on the space station, Nicole. But is that the right one? Taco, watercolor painting, story, or sweater? All right.
Oh,
Come
paid
through.
attention.
Mhm. If you went for tacos, there's probably some hungry students. So that's
Yeah,
in there.
I did make tacos in space.
In third place, the Wise Pony. In second place, we have the Wonder Crab. And let's see what happens with that first spot. We've got, the Blue Shorts.
Ooh, that was a bit. That was a.
Take that victory. All right. Well, thanks for playing along with us, boys and girls. I'm going to come back from my screen share, and I will share this banner here quickly. So the email is ebtsoyp@gmail.com. If you are that stork, have your teacher send me a message, and we'll make sure that we get that gift card heading your way. We'll grab a couple more questions before we let Nicole go for today as well. So let's see. Ooh, memory. Do you have a favorite memory from your time? I know this is probably super hard.
That is so hard. It all kind of wraps up into one really amazing memory. I think one of my funnest memories was the first time I got to call my son from space. As I said, he was 7 years old. So just to be able to do that, to pick up this computer phone and call him back on Earth, that was really cool. And but all the other, all of it just kind of wraps up into this memory of floating, of being able to float and fly and see Earth in this extraordinary way through the window and be working with really amazing people. So it's really difficult to pick a favorite one.
All right. And then this is a great question. Maybe this will be our last one for today from a grade 10 class in Niagara Falls in Ontario. And they're wondering, you've had that perspective. You've been able to travel the world as well, doing speaking things and some of the amazing art projects you've worked on. What do you think is one of the most important things we should be doing to help the planet?
Wow. I think, for me, it really does come down to these simple lessons of we live on a planet, we're all Earthlings, only border that matters, that thin blue line. And what comes from that is this reality check of who and where we all are in space together, and how the most important thing I really believe is figuring out how to behave like a crewmate on Spaceship Earth and not just a passenger. I think that allows us to bring all of our own talents to bear, to take action in the most positive way, to make the change that's necessary around us, to appreciate the awe and wonder right here on this planet that surrounds us every day, and want to protect and preserve that as our planetary life support system. And to do that, just like on a metal spaceship orbiting the planet, we need to accept our role as crewmates and not passengers. Thanks for that question.
All right. Well, Nicole, it always comes to a time when we have to let you go.
You do.
Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to do our experiments next. We do experiments every week in classrooms, send in the results.
Cool.
So that's where we're going next. But thank you so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure. And thank you for sharing, that incredible perspective with us. I think it's a really important message for students. And hopefully in the future, it's going to be easier for people to have that experience as well.
Yeah. Always my pleasure, Joe. And I look forward to meeting somewhere on solid ground here or on the ocean somewhere. That would be fantastic.
Sounds good to me.
All
right, Nicole.
See ya.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. All right. So we do have our experiment. So 2 weeks ago, we had our osmosis experiment with gummy bears. So I'm going to play the results. We'll announce the winners, and then we'll take a look at this week's experiment. So let me load up the video file here. Here it comes. And let's take a look at the results.
Welcome back. Let's look at the results of our osmosis experiment. Looking at the 3 gummy bears, I can see that they're very different shapes and sizes. They've definitely changed overnight. These have been in the solutions for about 24 hours. So it's now time to measure and weigh the gummy bears once more. Well, looking at the 3 beakers, I can see that the gummy bears are very different sizes. Let's start with the one in the concentrated salt solution. I'll pick him out carefully with these tweezers and put him on the scales. So when we put him in, he weighed 2.2 grams. He now weighs 1.5 grams. So I'll write that down. Let's also quickly measure him. He is, wow, he's 17 millimeters long. And I'll get his widest bit, 9 millimeters wide. We'll compare the results later. Now let's look at the gummy bear in the weaker salt solution. Very carefully, I'll bring him out and put him on the scales. Wow, he weighs 4.8 grams. So I'll write that down here. And measures 28 millimeters long by 14 millimeters wide. Now let's look at the gummy bear in the pure water. There's no salt in this beaker at all. Let's pop him down there. Wow, he weighs 5.7 grams. And he measures 36 millimeters long and approximately, it's a bit difficult measuring these squishy gummy bears, but we'll do our best, 16 millimeters wide. Now let's look at the results. So the gummy bear in the really concentrated salt solution, he weighed 2.2 grams when we put him in that solution, and now weighs 1.5, so he's lost 0.5 grams. And he measured 21 millimeters long and 12 millimeters wide. He now is just 17 millimeters long and 9 millimeters wide. So he's actually shrunk both in terms of size and in weight. Now let's look at the gummy bear in the weaker salt solution. When we put him in there, he weighed 2.3 grams, but now weighs 4.8 grams. So he's expanded and is now heavier. He also is larger. When we put him in, he was 22 millimeters long and 11 millimeters wide. And he's now 28 millimeters long and 14 millimeters wide. So he's definitely grown in both weight and in size. But the biggest change definitely has been the gummy bear that we put in pure water with no salt at all. When we put this guy in, he weighed 2.3 grams and he now weighs 5.7, so he's nearly doubled in weight. And he's also expanded in size. When we put him in the water, he measured 22 millimeters long and 12 millimeters wide, and now is 36 millimeters long and 16 millimeters wide. So he has also expanded significantly in size. Did you work out why the gummy bears have changed in these different ways? Well, let's start with the one in the concentrated salt solution. This one has shrunk. This is because the salt concentration in the solution was so much greater than the internal salt concentration inside the gummy bear. So the water within the gummy bear has been drawn out, shrinking its overall size. This is exactly how many cells work. If you put a cell in a really concentrated salt solution, the water will be withdrawn through osmosis, shrinking the cell overall, exactly like the gummy bear. Well, these two have expanded in size. The gummy bear in the weaker salt solution has absorbed a lot of water. The osmosis effect wasn't quite as strong, so the water wasn't withdrawn from inside the gummy bear, rather the contrary. Water was absorbed from the solution into the gummy bear. And of course, that's even more the case in the one in pure water because there's no salt at all. So this one has expanded and expanded to its maximum size. This experiment demonstrates how cells respond through osmosis. Most cells will shrink just like the gummy bears if they're in really saline conditions, because due to osmosis, the water within the cell is withdrawn, shrinking the cell overall. Similarly, cells in less saline environments or pure water can absorb the water through osmosis, so they'll often expand. How did your results compare to mine? Let's now find out who submitted entries and what they found.
All right, so it is time to take a quick moment and take a look at our entry. So I'm going to put our winning entry up here on the screen, and then I will announce the three winners. So there's our winning entry. So you can see there, this is Jenny Thomas, age 12. You can see the difference between the three, the tap water, the low salt solution, And then you can see the high salt solution there as well. So congratulations to Jenny Thomas. We will be sending a gift card your way. And then just to give a quick shout out to the other entries, we have Jürgen Schmidt in Hanover and Jackie Peters in Newcastle, England. So those are our second and third entries, and we will be sending gift cards your way as well. Now, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to play the experiment at the end today, so in a little bit of a different order, because I do want to share the results from last week's Curiosity of the Week. So if you recall here, we had this as our Curiosity of the Week last week, and I will tell you what it is now. This is actually a farming tool. So I mentioned it was used in Africa. So this is a handmade tool. I'm sure many of you have seen things like spades or a hoe that you might use in your garden at home. And so this is a version from Zimbabwe and Zambia. And so the farmers will make this tool and then they'll use it in their kind of gardens where they grow food for their families, but then of course a little bit to sell as well. So the ground can be very hard sometimes. It's got an end here for kind of breaking down clumps of dirt. And then it's got this kind of hard spade piece for raking and pulling and making those narrow paths. So that was our curiosity. Let's take a quick look at this week's curiosity.
Curiosity is this object here. Can you guess what it is? It's made out of a skin of an animal. It might look like plastic, but it isn't. And it's for containing something very, very important for life. I'll give you a clue. It's something to do with drinking. Send in your best guesses to classroom@darwin200.com. We'll see if you guess correctly. Join us next week to find out.
All right, so as we wrap up for today, remember we have our experiment, which I'm going to share with you in just one moment. You have 2 weeks to send those results in, which means last week's transpiration experiment with heat, you have 1 more week to get your answers in. 2 weeks for the new experiment I'm about to share. And then Curiosity of the Week, you have 1 week to submit what you think this week's curiosity is. Both of those to classroom@darwin200.com. Let me share that banner there one more time. Excellent. Well, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. So a huge shout out to all of our sponsors. Thank you so much to our partners, our sponsors around the world for making this possible. I am going to play the small reel of our sponsors, and then the experiment will play for this week to end our event. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to our sponsors, and enjoy this week's experiment. We look forward to your answers.
Have you ever wondered how plants absorb water from the ground through their roots and transport it up to their leaves for photosynthesis? It's a pretty amazing feat when you think about it, because the water is flowing against the direction of gravity. Several processes explain this phenomenon of how plants can absorb water and transport it in their tissues. At ground level, capillary action in the roots is very important for the plant to absorb water from the soil. Many plants use capillary action to absorb water into their roots and to transport it in their xylem, which act a bit like veins that run up the stems of plants to their leaves and branches. But capillary action only works to a certain level. Above a particular height, most plants have to actively transport fluids to their uppermost parts, their branches and their leaves. This week's experiment is going to look at how capillary action works. You need 3 beakers, but you could also use glass jam jars or glass cups. Fill 2 of them with roughly the same level of water. I've put in 400 millilitres of water on the 2 beakers on this side and this side. The one in the middle has to be empty with no water in at all. Then you need some food colouring. You can really choose any colour that you wish. I've chosen blue and yellow. You then have to pour in some drops of food colouring. It doesn't really matter how much you put in. Let's put in a good amount in there, and hopefully that'll turn the water nice and blue. And on this side, let's also put in some drops here, and hopefully this will turn the water nice and yellow. Let's give it a bit of a mix. And this one here, a bit of a mix too. Next, you need some tissue paper or paper towel. Fold this up into nice little folds so it's a long, thin strip. And put half of it into one of your beakers or cups or jam jars, and the other half in here. And then do likewise on the other side. So you should end up with a setup something a little bit like this. You then have to leave your experiment for 1 hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours. Fill out the results sheet on www.darwin200.com and send in photos of what your experiment does to classroom@darwin200.com. Join me in 2 weeks' time and we'll look at how my capillary action experiment has changed, and we'll see if my results are the same as yours. Good luck and see you next time.